going to be brief. There's a lot of good things which have been said. Let me introduce myself. My name is Steve Purser. I'm Head of Operations for the European Network and Information Security Agency. And very briefly, I'm going to take you through some trends which you may not expect to hear today and which aren't in my presentation, which I think are important. But let me start with a question. How many people in the room could tell me what the essential network security services are, i.e. those services we use to protect data when it's traveling over the internet? I don't need to know the answer, just how many people could tell me the answer? Right. Okay, very good. Let's try a different one, and then I'll get round to my point. Who could tell me what confidentiality means? I'm shy. Well, you're all scared, huh? Confidentiality on its own doesn't mean anything, right? Because I haven't specified confidential with respect to whom. Now, why am I saying this? I'm saying this because an important driver in eID is security concepts. And the point I'm going to eventually get to is that in the industry, one trend I would like to bring before your eyes today is that we are all becoming increasingly specialized in what we do. And this is not necessarily a good thing because there aren't many people who are looking at the big picture. Now, if you solve the eID problem perfectly, privacy, everything else, you have only taken care of one small link in the security picture. Let's be clear, yeah? And that in itself doesn't make much sense, actually, because if we were to come up with the world's best eID system, perfect authentication behind it, the moment you pass on to the application, it could mess everything up. So the point I'm making is that one of the things I encourage you to do as experts, and you are experts, is to continually think about the big picture so that we don't end up buying an extremely expensive lock for the front door and leaving the windows open. It's the coherency of the whole solution which matters in terms of security, yeah? This is my first point. And I would actually ask you to challenge people, because another thing I notice happening in the industry is we all use very complex words, and quite often the basics are we don't actually know what we're talking about. Yeah? And that will bring me on to my second point. But let me just tell you another story as well, very, very quickly, yeah? Because this also illustrates a point which I think is very important to back up my first. Has anyone heard of the Exploder ActiveX control? Anyone know what this is? Right, back in 1997, a chap called Fred McLean put a thing which is called an ActiveX control on the website, and when you clicked on it, it closed down your PC. And his point was, obviously, should people be able to do this, write software that when you click on it, closes down your PC? Not a good thing. That's not actually why I'm telling you the story. The fact of the matter is that he actually signed this thing with what's called a Microsoft Software Publisher Certificate. And that's supposed to add trust. At the time, it was a pure commercial transaction. Yeah? So he paid $50 and he got a certificate. That's not trust, eh? My point obviously is, and please believe me, I'm not looking at Microsoft to come a long way. We've learned a lot in the industry, but challenge very deeply security concepts so that you know you're getting value for money. Yeah? This is really important. Security can seem very good on paper, but when you dig a little bit, you haven't actually got that much. But that's my first point. Now, you're all extremely intelligent, very bright people. We've got the cream of the eID world in this room. How do you think, and sorry for those of you with me this morning, how do you think a member of your family would feel if they were sitting in that front chair? How much of the debate would they understand? Very little, I think, yeah, as most people said. And that's my second point. So again, apologies for those who already heard this morning. We are leaving the European citizen behind us, and that's not a good thing. If the European citizen does not really understand what these things are doing, authentication, smart cards, secure environments, etc., we will always have a way of breaking the system. Yeah? I mean, anyone who knows Kevin Mitnick? Kevin Mitnick was the super hacker. He broke security systems by using people weaknesses. And this will always continue to happen. So my second point is, a major trend in the industry is that we're leaving the normal person behind. And this is not good either. We need to create systems in which they can buy into them because they genuinely understand what is going on. Now, I've almost finished. I said I'd be brief. Yeah? I don't want to add all the excellent stuff that's already been said. But I would make a third point, is that we're discussing eID here. Now, essentially, I think what's in everyone's mind is public eID. Yeah? So PKI, etc., etc. If you look at what's happening on the internet today, ID, electronic ID in its more general form, is cropping up all over the place. You use one form of electronic ID to log on to your bank account, yet another to log on to government services, and probably a third, or at least I hope so, a third to log on to social networking or YouTube or what have you. Now, the point I'm trying to make here is that these three IDs are operating in vastly different security contexts. You know, you expect a lot more security when logging onto your bank account than you do when logging onto a social networking site. And you also expect a different type of security. On the one hand, it's integrity which matters, and the other, it's privacy, for instance, perhaps. Again, if you don't realize this, the tendency will be to use these eIDs incorrectly. And one thing that we all know happens, but let's repeat it again, is that people tend to use the same information to secure their credentials. So the password they use to secure access to, let us say, I don't know, one of the social networking sites could well be the same password that they use to secure the kind of credentials they're using to access a bank account. This is creating a very unhealthy dependency between IDs in two different security concepts. And if this carries on, we will see people using the weaker systems to break the stronger ones. So, let me resume what I've just said. Three basic points. It's good to be specialized. We need specialists, but we need to see the big picture. And I would invite you all to challenge the people you work with and make sure that they see the big picture all the while. Otherwise, we'll see unexpected weaknesses cropping up in systems. Secondly, we need to build systems which people really understand, and they understand the concepts underneath, so that when things go wrong, they can recognize that something is going wrong and act accordingly. And third, eID is not just public eID, it's a whole range of eIDs, and we need to set up a framework, I think, to make sure that we can use these different kind of eIDs in a logically coherent manner in the future. And one of the debates you all know is cropping up is this idea, should you use public ID for private services? I won't even go into it, it's going to become a key debate. Now, with that, I would like to close, because I don't want to repeat what's already been said, and I'll open up to questions. Thank you.